I think once you get into communities of practice, we're starting on that track towards evidence translation into real communities. So I think I applaud what you're doing, Matthew. And we only have 5 minutes for questions and thoughts. Oh, 1 minute. We'll extend to 5 minutes if you bear with us and can wait for coffee a little longer. So there's one here.
Hello. I'm interested hello, my name's Gordon Kay. I work for Queensland Health. Work with Francis, who's been a leader in the CRT implementation for us. I'm interested, if you looked at the data for your study, if there are differences in outcomes between the community-based participants versus the inpatient participants.
Yeah, I'd really like to have
I know it was only 8, wasn't 8 community participants, but is there a difference in the outcomes?
We didn't look at that yet, but I could go back and look at it. One of my worries is that that's a very small sample to be able to find meaningful sort of statistical difference. One of the things that our therapists try to do is write up vignettes, so it's possible to go back and look at that. One of the things that I would say is that a number of our inpatients are probably well represented by the level of functioning that I've just showed you, whereas community patients may have been more able to start with. And maybe to describe that, some of the community patients would drive to a session, are married, are looking for paid work, that kind of thing, as opposed to people who are more like the case study that I've just presented, who were in the inpatient.
Hi, my name's Stuart Lee from Swinburne University of Technology. Thanks, mate. That was great. I had a really interesting question in terms of, given your level of adapted functioning, did you have anyone with intellectual disability or very low cognitive ability? And did you have to make any changes to the way that circuits was used, or the therapist worked with the people with lower intellectual ability?
Yep, I don't think that we had people in the trial. I've got a couple of my colleagues here who would have had a diagnosed intellectual disability. But you saw the level of functioning on the cognitive measure and on that functional measure that was, some of those were below the 2nd percentile. So it's not that everybody would potentially be assessed and diagnosed with intellectual disability if they had it. So it wasn't sort of part of what we looked at. But what we do is modify the therapy, absolutely. And this is why we need a therapist. And yet another reason why therapists are important, so that the therapy can be taken to the person in a way that's meaningful for them and meets their needs at the level of functioning that they're at. We were, when we started, cautious about, will this work well with people with very low functioning in the extremely low range, but I think our results are showing that actually when therapists are able to take the therapy to the person and meet them where they're at, this is a therapy that's viable and provides strong effects.
Just to clarify, Matthew, that taking it to the person includes the possibility of doing it in the home.
It could be, I think, under some circumstances. We've because most of our people were in an inpatient environment, we had a computer lab set up, and we used community facilities where people would come to those. But there's potential for a therapist to go into someone's home. Yeah.
There's also potential for a control situation too, if you work at it, particularly in circumscribed communities, which you seem to have.